I woke to the smell of old carpet, the faint musk of my childhood bedroom, the way it had smelled decades ago. Sunlight crept through the thin curtains, pale and quiet, brushing the toys stacked along the shelves. At first, I thought it was a dream. I'd slept late on the plane yesterday, exhausted, and the past few weeks had blurred between deadlines and sleepless nights. Then, I saw my hands, small, chubby, fingers that had once been the hands of a 10-year-old, trembling in disbelief. I scrambled up from the bed, heart hammering, and caught sight of my legs tucked under me, the familiar contours gone. My body was no longer mine. I was a child. I ran to the mirror, expecting some cruel trick, some reflection that would correct itself, but there was nothing to look back at me. The glass shimmered, fogged with the morning, and my reflection did not appear. I wiped at it, still nothing. My own eyes stared back at emptiness, my lips parted in a soundless scream. Panic surged. I ran through the house, finding it exactly as I remembered. The crooked dresser, the faded wallpaper, the posters peeling in the corners. I tried to call out to my parents, or whoever should be here, but the voice that came was thin, high-pitched, a whisper of myself that could barely be heard. And then they came. They were all here. My parents, older now, but unmistakable. They looked at me with warmth, concern.
"Hey, sleepyhead,"
my mother said, ruffling my hair.
"Come down for breakfast."
My father smiled, eyes crinkling. But I felt the horror clawing at me. They were looking at me. They could see me. They could see me. But I couldn't see myself. Why can't I see me? I asked, voice cracking. I gestured to the mirror. Why am I like this? They looked puzzled.
"Like what, sweetie?"
my mother said.
"You look fine to me."
I backed away. Nothing in the mirror, nothing in the framed photos on the wall. Every image of myself was empty. In every picture I was missing, yet the world around me remained. I shouted, screamed, begged them to see it, but their faces were gentle, oblivious. To them, I was exactly the child I had been. I ran outside into the yard. The swing swayed in the breeze, exactly as I remembered it. Neighbors were outside watering gardens, waving. Each one waved at me, smiled, laughed. They saw me. They recognized me. But I could not see myself. I could not even feel my body as mine. It was like staring through a mask I had no access to, a shell that everyone else inhabited, leaving me outside, unmoored. I tried to write, to prove I existed. My handwriting was clumsy, childish, my letters shaky and uneven. I tore the paper in frustration. I could not leave a trace of myself. Nothing I did mattered. Nothing I created anchored me to this body, to this world. Days passed. I stopped sleeping because every time I closed my eyes, I feared I might not wake up at all. The world moved on around me. I sat in classrooms I didn't belong in, wore clothes that fit perfectly yet felt foreign. Friends I once knew smiled at me, laughed at jokes I could not understand. They could see me. I could not see me. The mirror remained empty. The photographs remained blank where I should have been. I whispered my name to myself in the dark, listening to the echo of a voice that belonged to someone else. I began to notice small things, shadows moving before I was aware of them, whispers in the house, doors that closed slowly behind me when no one was there. The world was alive, watching, waiting, and I was fading. I could feel it in moments of quiet, a slight thinning, a pressure in the chest, as if my existence was a candle being snuffed by invisible hands. I went to my parents. "I'm disappearing," I whispered, clutching their knees. Their faces tilted down, warm and comforting, and I couldn't stop the tears. "I'm disappearing." They stroked my hair.
You're just sleepy, sweetie.
my mother said.
Don't worry, you're fine.
But I knew. I felt the edges of myself unraveling. Each glance from another, each recognition made the emptiness inside me more apparent. I began to speak less, to move less, to retreat into corners where no one could touch me. I was already becoming a ghost in the room I once occupied fully, a child trapped between being seen and ceasing to exist. And the mirror? Still nothing. The glass mocked me with my absence. In the photos, in every reflection, I was gone. The world went on, anchored by me only in the memory of others. I tried to scream, but my voice was thin, almost not there. I can't say how long it lasted. Days, nights, years. The house is full of people who see me. My parents, friends, strangers in the street. They see me, speak to me, touch me. But I am hollow. I'm nothing. And sometimes in the dark, I whisper my own name. The sound trembles, disappears, and I wonder if the world will continue to see me at all when the last thread of me is gone. I'm here, but I'm not. I turned 21 in a hospital bed. A car accident, one stupid decision, one blind intersection, and I woke, staring at white walls and blinking machines. My friends sent messages. My mother wept by my side, but the strangest thing came in the days that followed. An email. The sender was my father. I hadn't spoken to him in 12 years. He'd walked out when I was 9, left nothing but debts and silence. Yet there it was, his name glowing on my phone screen, the words almost tender. I heard about the accident. I'm glad you're alive. Maybe this is the time we find each other again. At first, I ignored it. But something in me, some need I hadn't acknowledged, kept reading his words, his apologies, his promises. He told me he'd changed. He told me he lived abroad now, that he had a home, a life, space for me if I wanted it. He wanted to know the man I'd become. 3 months later, I boarded a plane. I told myself it was reckless, stupid, but I wanted answers. I wanted to look him in the eye and see if he was really sorry. And maybe part of me wanted to believe he could still be my father. The airport was humid, crowded. He didn't meet me there, but I got a message directing me to a car service. "Driver knows where to take you," the text read. The driver, a broad man with dark glasses, barely spoke a word. I stared out the window as we left the city behind, heading into countryside that seemed to stretch forever, hills rolling, forests swallowing the road. We pulled up to a house that looked older than memory. Stone walls, sagging roof, windows that reflected only sky. My stomach tightened. He was waiting at the door. My father. Or so I thought. He smiled as I climbed out, arms open, as though I were still 9 years old. His hair was thinner, his face more worn, but the voice was the same. "My son," he said, "you've come home." The first days blurred. He cooked, he asked about my life, he showed me the room he'd prepared. He told me about his mistakes, how he'd been weak, how he wanted to make amends. I wanted to believe him. But then the questions started. About my accident, about my insurance, about the money my mother had set aside. His interest was too sharp, too constant. And there were other things. I'd hear movement in the night, doors opening and closing, low voices speaking in a language I didn't recognize. Once I woke to find my father standing in the doorway watching me sleep, his eyes gleaming in the half-dark. He smiled when I stirred and walked away without a word. My suspicion grew. I checked his office while he was out. His computer wasn't filled with family photos or work documents. It was filled with emails. Hundreds of them. All to young men and women. All written with the same tenderness he'd used with me. Apologies, promises, Invitations. I clicked through folder after folder. Pictures of strangers, boarding passes, some faces I didn't recognize, others I did. A missing persons article from the year before, clipped and saved. I felt sick. That night I confronted him. My voice shook. Who are you writing to? What are you doing with them? He stared at me for a long time, then chuckled. Still curious, aren't you? Just like when you were a boy. He stepped closer, his smile widening. They're not for you to worry about. You're here now, that's what matters. I didn't sleep. I packed quietly, waited for dawn. But when I crept to the door, the locks had been changed. The windows barred. The game had begun. He left notes around the house for me to find, slips of paper under my pillow, in the pockets of my clothes. You wanted a father. I am giving you one. Don't be like the others. Don't run. Stay, and I will take care of you forever. The phone lines were dead. My cell had no service. The driver never returned. I realized then it wasn't my father at all. Or maybe it once was long ago, but something had hollowed him out, worn his skin like a mask. He was a predator dressed in regret, a wolf in sheep's clothing, and I had walked into his den. On the fourth night, I heard screams from beneath the house. I followed the sound to a locked cellar door. I pressed my ear against it and heard weeping, pleading, voices, plural. The next morning, the cellar was silent. I don't know how long I've been here now. I eat what he gives me, drink what he pours. He talks for hours, telling stories of a life I never knew, filling silence with honeyed lies. Sometimes I believe him. Sometimes I almost want to. But when I catch my reflection in the dusty glass of the window, I see myself fading, pale, hollow, my 21 years dwindling into nothing. I know how this ends. He'll hollow me out too, wear my face for the next letter, the next email, the next fool desperate enough to believe in family. And somewhere across the world, my mother is still waiting for news, waiting for me to come home. But she'll never know I died the day I answered his message. I never thought myself the jealous type. I was rational, practical, a man who measured before he acted. But doubts grow like weeds, slowly, silently, until one morning you look out at your life and realize it's been strangled. Margaret had been different for months. The late nights, the whispered phone calls, the sudden bursts of laughter that ended the second I walked into the room. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself I was imagining it. But at night, lying in bed beside her, I could hear her breathing steady and calm, while my own thoughts drummed against the dark. That's when I hired him. The private investigator came recommended. A man named Ellison. He was tall, neatly dressed, his manner clipped and efficient. He had the kind of face you forget immediately, the kind that blends into crowds, perfect for his line of work. I'll find out if she's unfaithful, he said, his voice a monotone. I'll document everything. You'll know the truth. I felt both relief and shame. Relief, because someone else would carry the burden of watching her. Shame, because I had given up trust for suspicion. Days passed. Ellison called once to say he was following her movements, then again to tell me she had gone to the hotel. My heart lurched at that. The hotel. He didn't name the man, but he said he'd have proof soon. I remember waiting that night, sitting in the kitchen with the clock ticking, the shadows stretching long across the tiles. Margaret never came home. My chest hollowed out, dread gnawing at me until dawn. But the next day, there was no scandal, no proof, no confrontation. Margaret didn't return, not with a lover, not at all. She was simply gone. Her clothes still in the closet, her phone on the nightstand, her purse by the door. It was as if she had stepped out for a moment, and never come back. I called Ellison. He didn't answer. I left messages. No reply. That's when the thought first struck me. What if he had something to do with it? At first, it was only a whisper of paranoia. But it grew, fed by silence, by absence. The man I'd trusted to watch her, to follow her, was gone, and so was she. My mind drew lines between them. Dark, jagged lines. I went to the police. They asked questions, searched, filed reports. They asked about her state of mind, our marriage, her habits. I told them what I could. I did not tell them about Ellison. Something in me wanted to keep him secret, as if by doing so I retained control of a situation that had already unraveled. Nights became unbearable. I'd hear movement in the house, footsteps in the hallway, the creak of the stairs. Sometimes I'd wake to find the front door unlocked, though I'd bolted it before bed. Once, I found a cigarette, still smoldering in the ashtray on the porch. Neither of us smoked. I began to dream of Ellison, standing in the corners of rooms, watching, his expression blank. Sometimes Margaret was with him, her face pale, eyes wide as though pleading for something I couldn't give. I'd wake drenched in sweat, my throat raw from screaming her name. One evening, desperate, I drove to the address on Ellison's business card. A small office downtown, blinds drawn, dust collecting, locked. I pounded until my fists ached, but no one came. As I turned to leave, I noticed something. Movement in the glass door. My reflection, except it wasn't me. The man staring back wore my clothes, but his eyes were flat, his mouth twisted into a smile I didn't feel. I stumbled back. When I looked again, it was just me. Just me. The days since blur together. I hardly sleep. My food tastes like ash. The police call occasionally, asking if I've heard from her, if there's been any sign. I lie and say no. I don't tell them about the notes that appear on my kitchen table in a handwriting I don't recognize. She's with me. You asked me to watch her. Now I am. I burn them, but more appear. Always waiting when I come home. I hear Margaret at night now, her laughter echoing through the walls. Sometimes I hear her weeping, muffled, like she's trapped behind a door I can't find. I tear the house apart, but there's nothing. No source. Just the sound, and Ellison's voice beneath it, calm and toneless. You wanted the truth. You wanted her watched, and I am watching. I don't know how much longer I can endure this. I see movement in mirrors that isn't mine, shadows that don't belong to any body. I feel a presence at my back when I sit alone, breathing slow and steady. Last night, I woke to find Margaret lying beside me. Her skin was cold, her hair damp. She whispered something into my ear, words I couldn't understand, before fading like mist. I think Ellison has her. Or maybe he is her. Or maybe in hiring him I opened something I shouldn't have. All I know is this. When I look in the mirror now, I see him. His eyes, his smile, watching, waiting. And I think soon there won't be any difference between us at all.